Good afternoon to all our participants today. Before anything else, I would like to mention a few reminders before we get started. If you experience any issues with your audio or video during the session, kindly refresh your browser to address this concern. If you have any questions for our speaker, please do feel free to post your questions in the video wall, which is located on the right side of your screen. Let us now proceed to one of the most awaited activities of the largest virtual edition of the International Property Show and Invest in Dubai Real Estate. Meet the influencers. Our social media influencer who will speak for today is the most celebrated real estate and investment multimedia thought leader and influencer in the region. He's the CEO of award-winning Harbor Real Estate, managing mixed-use international portfolios worth of 14.8 billion AED. He has his own top-rated property reality show on MBC One and Dubai TV, and he's the author of the best-selling book titled Landlording: From Renting to Financial Freedom. He's also a senior instructor and advisor at Dubai Land Department since 2009, certifying and mentoring thousands of real estate professionals across the region. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Muhannad Al Wadia as he talks about landlording from renting to financial freedom. Mr. Muhannad?
Hello, Karen. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. I'm very happy to be with you. I'm just going to switch my camera. I hope everybody can see me. So thank you very much for the introduction. I would like to thank all the organizers, all the sponsors, everybody who's working, has been working very hard on this initiative. It's a very important event. And I think more than ever, there is a global fierce competition to attract investors and global capital. And I think Dubai is positioning itself very well in this competition. So I think I have around 30 to 35 minutes. What I would like to do is I would like to spend it to talk about something I'm very passionate about, real estate. It's something that I've been doing for the last 2 decades. I come actually from a real estate family in 4 generations. So, and it's also my academic background. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. What I would like to do is to structure the time. I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 topics, depending on the time and how it goes. First, I want to talk about the 10 reasons that make people lose in real estate. I'm not going to talk about how you can make money in real estate because I think a lot of people do that. So I thought it would be more interesting to shed the light on the common mistakes that could lead people to lose in real estate, obviously with the objective of making people avoid them. So that would be the first part of my talk today. Then I would like to jump into identifying the key factors that will help investors identify a promising property market. This is a very common question. A lot of people keep asking me, is Dubai the right place to invest in? What about this country, that country? So what I'm going to do today, hopefully, is I'm going to share with you a formula I use, which includes more than 20, almost 25 factors that I take into consideration when I identify any city or country to invest in. And we can also use this to evaluate Dubai's performance against these points. And finally, if time allows, I'm going to share with you a few insights on how people can invest in real estate, even if they don't have a very big budget. Actually, I'm going to share with you how you can invest in real estate for less than $1. Yes, less than $1. So stick around. I will share this and a few other tips on how we can invest in real estate with a limited budget towards the end of this session. So just to jump into it, I consider real estate a gift from God to humanity. I call it the sheikh of investment asset classes because it is definitely the safest and most rewarding long-term asset class. It's great because it generates capital gains and also an ongoing income, which can help people achieve financial freedom. Having said that, it's very important to note that a lot of people have lost money in real estate, and the reason for that mainly boils down to knowledge, I would say patience and poor management. But What I'm going to do with you now in the first part, I'm going to share with you the 10 common reasons that make people lose in real estate. So let's go through them one by one. The first most common reason from my experience that lead to people losing in real estate is picking the wrong timing. A lot of people buy or sell at the wrong time. And I've heard this over and over, not just in Dubai, in different markets. I think the best investors are the investors that pick the right time to invest. If we look at what's happening right now, the property market in Dubai, for example, has been witnessing a correction phase for the last few years. And it really reached to levels of, in terms of pricing and in terms of value, that really represent a great opportunity for investors. And then the COVID-19 came, which is a black swan. Nobody expected this to happen. And it affected the property market prices even more. And it resulted in a further decline, which represents a great opportunity for investors who are looking to get capital appreciation and rent returns on the long run. So timing is perfect. To my surprise, I still get people asking me, is this the right time to buy or not? Well, if it's not the right time, when would be the right time? I often get people calling me right now saying, can I sell my property right now? I need to sell it. And I asked them, do you really need to sell it? They're like, no, but we're worried. We just want to exit. And for them to exit right now, they will be losing a lot of money, which is a shame. And this is one of the common reasons why people lose in real estate. So that's my first reason, the wrong timing. Second reason is focusing on getting rich quickly. Real estate, as I mentioned earlier, is God's gift to humanity, but it's a long-term investment asset class. If you're going to invest in real estate, you need to understand this. It's not meant for you to buy and flip immediately. I got a lot of people losing money by following the following strategy. They either get a wrong advice or they believe this is the right thing to do. They buy a property most of the time off plan, and they say at the time when it's completed, at handover, I'm going to sell it and make a lot of money. That's a very big risk that they take, and I've seen it over and over, people losing money because of this strategy. If you want to gain and make very good returns in terms of capital appreciation and rent returns, you need to be patient. You need to adopt a long-term investment strategy with real estate. Real estate is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So the third reason that is very common for people to lose in real estate is poor financial planning and management. And this is, again, a common mistake that happens. A lot of people jump into real estate without conducting a proper due diligence on themselves, on their financial status, on their sources of funds, and their eligibility to take a loan. Or they don't plan things properly. Yes, I have the down payment and then I'll sort it out. I'll either borrow the money or I'll hopefully I'll cover it from somewhere, or I'll flip it before I have to pay that next payment. This is a recipe for a disaster. So again, this is a very common reason that leads to people losing a real estate. So my advice is for people to study their financials very well before they venture into investing in real estate. The fourth common reason is lack of real estate knowledge. A lot of people end up buying a property, they treat it like it's an impulse purchase. Well, I have news for you. The biggest investment any human being would make in their life is buying a property. So you should not rush into it. You should treat it as a very important investment decision. And it has to be based on knowledge and facts, not based on a gut feel or an opinion or a piece of news that you read from a source that you don't know if it's credible or not. You have to do your research. There is no shortcuts. You have to develop your knowledge in order to be able to make a sound decision. The fifth reason why people lose in real estate is, from my experience, is because they blindly follow the crowd. And I've seen this over and over during some of the peaks in the market when things start picking up, and we're anticipating this to happen very soon as the global market starts recovering, as soon as permanent solution is identified for COVID. As soon the year 2021 starts, 22 would be over, 21 starting. I think 2021 will bring a lot of optimism, at least in the UAE, because it's the year of celebrating the 50 years anniversary, which will have a lot of great initiatives for the economy, for the UAE, for Dubai as a city. It will also be the year of the Expo. So whether we like it or not, COVID will end at one point of time, and things will start picking up again. And when it does, we will see that people will start rushing into buying real estate and investing again. And it will be a mistake, and I've seen that happen before, where people just hear about a developer launching a project, they just see some people queuing, and they start rushing and queuing with them. That doesn't mean that that opportunity is great. It just shows you that there is a lot of traffic there, which usually worries me, because that's where people end up paying for overpriced properties that will not give them the right returns. So these are the top 5 reasons that I find lead people to losing a real estate. The other 5 reasons are secondary, but also common. For example, taking advice from unqualified people in general. Unfortunately, most of the brokers most of them, not all of them, don't come from a solid real estate background. I'm talking about experience or academic foundation. Real estate is a science and an art. It requires scientific experience, learning, academic foundation, and also practical expertise. You cannot just succeed with one. You might succeed with one and not the other, but if you have both, your chances of succeeding will be much better. And I've seen a lot of people make their decisions, investment decisions in real estate, based on an advice from somebody who doesn't have any qualifications in this field, not even solid experience, or if they had a long experience, it's very shallow, or with a company that does not have a good track record. They taught them bad habits, bad ways of providing advice. As I mentioned earlier, buying a property must be based on facts. Not based on opinions or an advice from somebody who's not qualified. And I've seen it a lot of times. People coming to me. Just today, I had somebody calling me saying, well, you know what, I made a mistake. I bought a property through a broker. He was pushing me in a mall. I was walking in a mall, and I bought the property there, paid the deposit, and then I realized they were lying to me. It's not what I expected. So how can I get out of it? Again, too late. You've already paid. It's very hard now to cancel. Reason number 7, getting, I would say, fooled by huge marketing campaigns. The bigger the marketing campaign, in my opinion, the more you should be worried about it. And I hope none of the developers get offended by this. But I always say, if your product is really good, if you have a very solid reputation, you don't need to promote it a lot. And you don't need to be very pushy in attracting people. Yes, you can promote it just to build a brand, to highlight the lifestyle, but I'm talking about getting into a tactical mode where you start pushing offers, start cold calling people, start getting too aggressive to get people to buy. If it's really good, people will not need to be pulled to come to you. They will know about it and they will come by themselves. So the bigger the campaign, the more worried I get, because that means there is something they're trying to cover up for. It could be, and also I always ask myself, and I tell my team, it should maybe how are they able to afford to pay for such mega campaigns? Are they actually financing this themselves? The answer is not. They're actually building this into the price of the property that the customers will end up paying. The 8th reason of why people lose real estate, in my opinion, is opting for cheap home insurance. And I've seen this, as I mentioned, this is a secondary reason, but I've seen people lose real estate because of that. Unfortunately, when it comes to insurance, maybe in the UAE, people are used to opting for the cheapest option. It's like with their cars, they negotiate and negotiate until they get the cheapest insurance policy, which works if your car is new, because God forbid, if you go through an accident, your car at least will be fixed at the dealer's service center. Well, the cheapest policy in real estate is the worst policy from my experience. So it's the responsibility of the owners, the investors, to make sure that they are buying a good policy that covers them and protects them very well. The ninth reason of why I believe people lose in real estate is because they sign in for a bad mortgage plan. A lot of people don't understand how mortgages work, and they don't understand the details behind it, and they usually depend on the banks to explain it to them. Most of the banks will not share with you the details that you really need to know. They share with you only the highlights, the main highlights, like what would be the interest rate or the profit rate, the installments, but they don't share with you how they're calculating the actual profit or interest, and how are you paying it, what's the proportion between the principal and the actual interest. They don't explain to you how IBOR works and the history of IBOR, and when is it going to start affecting you. So all of these elements lead to, from experience, losses. I know people who had loans a long time ago that they were still signed up and they're still paying for, with very high pre-agreed rates, and with very high IBOR, where sometimes it reaches to 6, 7, or 8% annually, which is way higher than what they're getting in terms of rent return. So that could lead to major losses and frustrations for a lot of investors. The last common reason of why people lose in real estate, and I hope I don't upset some of the developers, is because they buy off-plan properties from unreliable developers. So I think people who follow me, they know I always have a saying where I advise people not to buy off-plan properties. I always say, don't buy fish in the sea. I prefer to have a ready property, because I come from the school, and this is how I grew up in my family, that real estate is a great way to generate cash flow and to diversify our income. So we don't think of the capital appreciation as much as we think of the cash flow. And that's why I insist on always buying ready properties, because I know then I will receive the benefit of owning that property. Off-land properties are great. They have a lot of benefits, but there are a lot of risk associated with it, which could lead to losses. One is the most common risk is that they'll be late in delivery, and this is very common, not just in Dubai, all over the world. Second, you might not get the view you promised or the finishes you were promised. And so many other things. But in general, it could lead to a lot of frustrations. I've seen a lot of people lose money because of that. So the best recipe to avoid this is to actually buy a ready property and turn it immediately into an income-generating property. Just to make myself very clear, I'm not totally against off-plan. I mentioned it has to be an off-plan property, or I prefer under construction, because off-plan is where it's still at the very early stages. It's just on the initial or concept design. They didn't even start the works, or maybe it's still in the substructure phase, not the superstructure, which is above the ground. So as soon as you get into superstructure and you start seeing that the building is actually shaping up and it's nearing completion, or it's in a very advanced stage, maybe you can consider investing in it, but it has to be from a very reliable developer. The best advice I give you is buy ready properties to avoid this totally. So these are the 10 most common reasons why people lose in real estate. I'll just recap very quickly. First, I mentioned the timing, picking the wrong time to buy or sell. Then I mentioned focusing on getting rich very quickly. So they're not thinking of it as a long-term asset class and treating it as such. 3, poor financial planning and management. And 4, the lack of real estate knowledge. It's the biggest investment you'll make in your life, so it has to be based on facts. Then blindly following the crowd. Whenever you see the hype, you just go and buy. This could lead you to losses. Taking advice from unqualified people. They don't have academic or practical experience that is solid experience. Getting fooled by huge marketing campaigns, Another reason would be opting for a cheap insurance policy. Then I spoke about mortgages, and finally buying off-plan properties from unreliable developers. Maybe I will add a bonus. Another reason why I believe people lose in real estate is poor management. I always say to own is to maintain. You cannot just own a property, and I've heard this a lot. Real estate is a passive asset class, income generating asset class. No, it's not. Real estate is not passive. It will not rent itself by itself. It will not. The tenants will not be taken care of by themselves. You have to manage it. You have to maintain them. You have to maintain the property. So I actually don't believe in any passive income asset class. So you need to really invest the time, allocate a budget for maintenance and maintaining this asset that you invested in to help you in sustaining your cash flow and also protect your capital that you invested and help it grow. So that's maybe the 11th reason I will give you. So I'll move on now to very quickly, I'm going to take you through, I think the time will allow only to cover this topic, which is how do you select a promising property market? What are the criteria you must take into consideration when you want to invest in any city or any country? And maybe while I'm going, I'm going to try to give you different examples, but think of Dubai as an example, because we're here in Dubai and we want to promote investing in Dubai. It's one of the greatest cities in the globe that offers a really interesting real estate market with great opportunities. So I'm going to share with you the factors that apply to Dubai and other cities, and you will see and judge it by itself based using a factual base to judge Dubai's if you want ranking in terms of it being a promising property market. So the first factor I take into consideration when I want to invest in any property market is I look at the legal framework. I need to make sure in any market that I invest in, there is a robust foundation, legal foundation that can protect me and protect my investments. And also under the same point, I would talk about the ease of visiting the property or that city, the property laws, the inheritance laws, the freehold laws offered in that specific city. The second reason I would recommend that you look at is the population growth. For example, in the UAE, the population in 1990 used to be 1.8 million. Now in 2020, we're talking about 9.9 or 10 million. So this shows you that despite all the crisis, all the issues we hear about, all the political or economical instabilities that the world is witnessing or the region, the UAE has proved itself in the last 30 years. And I think the future will even bring more exciting news. So this helps me in making my decision when I want to invest in the UAE or not, or in any other country. The third reason I would recommend you look at is the economics. You need to study the GDP, the diversification of the income of this country or city, the inflation rates, their current account, their fiscal and monetary policy. I mean, look at how the UAE handled the COVID-19 crisis. They immediately introduced monetary and fiscal policies that helped in stabilizing and really controlling the situation. And I think this is not just my opinion. I think the whole globe was very impressed with the way the UAE handled the COVID-19 crisis. Four, I would look at the infrastructure in terms of the history. I'm talking about physical infrastructure of that city or country, about the history, about the current, about the future plans, their spending in technology. I'm sure you've all heard about the investment of Dubai in the Hyperloop, the connectivity in general, the infrastructure development, the spending, because this shows you how promising this city or country will be, and that has a direct impact on your real estate investments. Other factors, connectivity is a very important factor. The building codes of that city or country are very important. A very important factor for me when I look at real estate investment is the level of corruption in that city or country. We are blessed in the UAE to have a zero corruption culture. So this impacts my decision as a real estate investor going into any market. Another factor is the political stability and the trust of the people in the leadership of that city or country. That's a very important factor that could impact my real estate investment. Safety and security. It's one of the greatest blessings, and it's become now one of the most important needs for all humans all over the world. And it also has a direct impact on the ability of any city to attract investment to it. The vision and the strategy of that city. And this also goes back to the leadership as well. So if you have a city that has a very smart and very promising vision and strategy, that gives me the assurance that this place is a good place to invest in. And I haven't seen or I haven't heard of any city or country focused on launching a 50-year plan. Well, guess what? We are celebrating the theme of the year for us this year in the UAE is the year of preparation for the next 50 years, which is great. This shows you that the leadership in the UAE is thinking for not the next 5 years or decade, they're thinking for the next 50 years, which is great. I would love to ride the same wave with my real estate investment. Employment rate, property tax is very important. Financing availability is very important. Both traditional or Islamic, and the variety of the finance opportunities available for investors. Another factor is availability of service providers. One of the main reasons I look at when I want to invest in any market is the ability to access and utilize the services of quality service providers. There are some amazing cities with very good real estate sectors, but they lack the service providers that are professional. And this is a turn off for me because if I'm based here in Dubai or I'm based in Canada and I want to invest in Dubai, I need to make sure that there will be a professional property management company that can handle the full scope of property management for me. There are professional inspection, snagging companies, there are professional maintenance companies, facility management companies, owner association management companies. I need to be assured that my property will be taken care of by professional licensed service providers. Another factor I would look at is the demand and supply in that specific market. I will look at the lifestyle. Is it a favorable lifestyle that will attract and has a sustainability aspect to it, which will help me also in growing and protecting my investment in that specific city or country. Other factors I would recommend you look at is definitely the financials, rental yields, capital appreciation, the historic rates, and also the current rates. I think Dubai is still one of the top countries in cities in the world that offers extremely high rent yields compared to any other comparable city of the same that offers like a global city lifestyle or experience. Another factor you should consider is the cost of acquisition. How much does it cost you to buy a property? I'm talking about the registration fees, issuing title deeds, conveyancing fees, commissions, the whole cost of acquiring a property. Sometimes this could be a factor that will cripple the appetite of investors from entering any specific market. The next factor will be the cost of ownership. So after you buy the property, how are the service charges? How are the maintenance fees? Any insurance fees? Any cost that will impact the net returns of that property? And I would say maybe the last factor is the branding and marketing of that city. Is that city or country able to promote itself and position itself as a sought after destination for investors, for visitors, for trade? So that's a very important factor because it will also have an impact on the real estate sector in that specific city or country. I think my time is up. I'm just gonna wrap up with a quote that I really love and I always use in my talks or my courses or workshops. And it's for Theodore Roosevelt. He was the 26th president of the United States of America. I love his quote because it just summarizes maybe everything I just said today. The quote says, every person who invests in well-selected real estate, so you need to select the real estate at the right real estate at the right time, in a growing section of a prosperous community or city or country, so a country that or a city that has a promising or prosperous community, adopts the surest and safest method of becoming financially independent. For real estate is the basis of wealth. So it's a beautiful quote. Every person who invests in well-selected real estate in a growing section of a prosperous community adopts the surest and safest method of becoming independent. For real estate is the basis of wealth. The ironic thing, and one of the things that make me like this quote a lot, is that it's 100 years old. It's essential. He said it almost 100 years ago, and it's still valid till today. And real estate will always be my favorite asset class. It will always be the best asset class I would consider, because it truly helps in achieving financial freedom. It truly helps in growing wealth. And I wish you all a very good day. I'm open for any questions if you have them. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mohanad. Actually, I was about to ask you your favorite quotes, but you already given it, you know.
I live by it, actually.
Yeah, so that's your #1 favorite quotes. Very nice. I guess you already covered almost all the questions, you know, the audience wanted to ask, but let me just repeat it out. Yes or no? Is it a good time to buy now?
Definitely. I think yes, definitely yes.
Definitely yes. And what's your best advice where to invest now? Of course, it's very obvious.
I would say the best place to invest at would be in projects that offer affordable housing. I'm also recommending now investing in logistical real estate or warehouses, simply because COVID changed the way we consume real estate, and there's a lot of demand on online trading, and a lot of companies are looking for warehouses to just fulfill their online services. So there's a huge, at least in Dubai, there's a huge demand for warehouses and affordable housing.
All right, so I think you have a lot of priorities right after this, but we'll try to just check out which one is we can give. Next question: what is the lowest amount I can invest in Dubai?
The lowest amount right now I've seen is around 180,000 dirhams. You'll get a studio at International City. You can get also at Sky Courts in Dubai Land Residence a studio for 200,000 dirhams, and that will get you easily a 7% net ROI.
7% net. All right. Next question: how do I make sure that my property is rented?
Oh, that's a very good one. Look, there are. First of all, I would recommend that you read my book. it's all in my book.
Yes.
But there are so many reasons why a property wouldn't rent. I will give you maybe there are 10 reasons. I'll tell you the top 5 just for the sake of time. You need to check your pricing. It has to be competitive. I'm not saying you have to drop your price, because I think that's a very lazy strategy. You should think of adding value, like offer a month free or multiple payment checks. The second reason why your property wouldn't rent, or to make sure that it rents, is to make sure that you offer it with the right payment plan. So if you're trying to offer your property with 1 check, your chances of renting it will be much less than somebody who's offering it over 6 checks or 12 checks. The third reason would be the condition of the property. You need to make sure that the property is staged properly, because you could have the right price with the added value, the right payment plan. The leads will come see it in a very bad shape. They will not rent it. The fourth reason, I would say, you need to invest in the right marketing and the right marketing channels, because you could have the right property, good price, good payment plan, but it's not promoted in the correct way. And finally, make sure you use a professional licensed well-experienced agent, leasing agent, because you could have everything taken care of, and then people come into an agent who is inexperienced, has an indifferent attitude, doesn't follow up, doesn't know how to close, and then you will not be able to rent your property. These are the top 5. There are another maybe 5 or 6 secondary reasons, but I think if you take care of these 5, you would definitely rent your property at no time. If you're still confused about it, call Harbor Real Estate or call me and my team, and we'll help you renting it.
I hope they take note of that 5 things that you've given them. I think we can give you more 2 questions if it is fine for you. Yeah.
Yes.
2 more is fine.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. What type of property is best for an investment?
As I mentioned earlier, I think right now I would recommend for investing in affordable housing, simply because the demand for it is very high. We always have a shortage of affordable housing. The biggest segment in any population would be the mid-income class, and you can never go wrong with them because they're very hardworking. They're committed. Especially I would recommend maybe not the studios and the 1 bed. I would recommend a 2-bedroom, because people at that level of their life cycle, they're at the peak of their commitment. They're newlywed. They maybe have 1 or 2 young children, and people usually are at the peak of their commitment at that stage. So they're very committed to their work. They're committed to their payments. They're really trying to build their families. So you get a very good kind of tenant from them. So I would recommend 2 bedrooms in affordable housing.
2 bedrooms. All right. And I guess our last question is a very, very nice question. From where we can get a signed copy of Mr. Muhannad's book?
I love it. Well, my book, thank God, my first book is doing very well. You can find it in all the major bookstores. You can order it from Amazon, from noon.com. You can order a signed copy by sending an email to the publishing house. They've created an email called books@muhannadalwadiya.com. So if you just request a copy, they will send it to me, I sign it, and they ship it to you wherever you are around the world.
All right. So as you hear it already, Mr. Muhammad is ready to sign everything, sign the books. So we're gonna wrap up now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right. So again, thank you so much, Mr. Muhammad, for your very brilliant discussion, and we're really, really glad to have you at this event.
You're welcome.
So that includes our day 1 of the largest virtual edition of the International Property Show and Invest in Dubai Real Estate. But this is just definitely the beginning of this remarkable 10-day event. And please visit our website, www.internationalpropertyshow.ae and www.iadubai.ae to get more information on our upcoming activities, and follow us on our social media channels to keep updated. And thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all tomorrow for day 2 that packed up with virtual activities and filled with abundant opportunities for everyone. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at the largest virtual gathering of the world's real estate community. Bye-bye for now, Mr. Muhammad. Have a great time. Take care.